Oh, so good evening, guys. As always, we are at our terrace. I know I've shot more than 5 videos at my terrace, but what happens? So let's go. Just read the chapter from the book Man's Search for Meaning, and I'm feeling really good about it because I don't know why, because we are starting in something new, a new kind of chapter. We read this chapter about Frankel, about the man's. I'm not saying we have completed the book. We have not completed the book, but we are jumping into another topic from this same book. Yeah, that's why happy. So it was great to have this book, and now I'm reading it further, and it's great. Now we're discussing about the sufferings. In yesterday's video, we have discussed about the sufferings which the prisoners got after after the independence from the concentration camp. So it was really hard to start living once again because they had suffered for a long time, and then they start recovering, start living in the real life because there are no time punctuations, there were no assessment or guards or concentration camp or gas chambers or anything. They were free then, but still they were in a mental trap because for 3 years they lived in the concentration camp and they hardly survived, and now they had some kind of mental trauma, and they were not living in present, and they became really cruel because in camp with them good things what wasn't happened, and they were feeling really bad because their assessment, their foremen, the Nazi concentration camp people behaved with them really bad. So they were doing the same thing again. But Frankel says that if people did something wrong with you, do not do something wrong with others, because if you cannot break that cycle, things cannot change. So you need to break that cycle, you need to break that thing if you want to go further, if you want to be a hero, if you want to live a happy life, because it's mandatory for it. And that's what it is, bro. And not much, but still something to say, and this is a really important part to say, and nobody is perfect. That's why you don't need to be cruel, because they were acting differently, they were behaving differently, because they were living in they were thinking they are not living in a real world, and they were feeling really bad because their life changed. uh, some sympt- I'm telling you, some symptoms were they were eating, they were doing overeating because they had been in starvation from the few years, and they had been in starvation for few years, so they started overeating, and they started behaving cruelly, they started becoming more cruel, they started becoming, because they had some expectations that people really welcome them and their loved ones love them, but that doesn't happen because a lot of people were died, a lot of prisoners family members were died, And some people who were alive thinking about this example, suppose I also support this. This is not a big thing. They were saying something like that because they also suffered that suffering. But the prisoners think, why they are not treating with me differently, because they had already lived that suffering at that life, because that doesn't matter, because they all lived that, because in Germany a lot of Jewish people lived that life in concentration camps and Auschwitz and other camps also, because that what happened in the Nazi era. After the Great Depression, that happened. Yeah. So we're reading this book, and we will start tomorrow a new chapter from this book. We have a new topic from this book. Yeah, I'm really grateful that I reached to that part, and yeah, that's happened because that's what it is, bro. And that happens sometimes because that happened often, often. Yeah. So we are reading about it, and yeah, they were suffering also in life, because some people thought life can be more easy, but they were dealing with life problems also, because that's the responsibility, and that's what life is. Problems never stops. And that happened because a lot of people think a lot of people thought the responsibilities, the problems will over, but that they won't. And that happened with them because their expectation was too high, and they were thinking now they relieved, and now their life be more peaceful and more good, and because they had fortunate some habits, some bad habits, that's why they were lacking in life, because that is also some kind of problem, some kind of illness, some kind of mental pressure. So they need to live, they need to heal once again in life, because that 3 years were really hard for them. And yes, that happened, and that were really hard for him, or also for Frankel, and also for other prisoners also, because they had lived for 3 years in the concentration camps, and the 3 years were really hard. They suffered every day, and they were living in a false hope. They were living in a faith that one day everything be fine, and that's how they were living. And now they're completely free. Now they were completely free, and then thinking about why. And they need to start live their life again, and to find their purpose once again, because it happens sometimes. You lose your focus, you lose your patience, you lose your meaning of life, and then you need to sit down and think about your life and think about your purpose. And if you're not getting it, so wait, be patient and work every day, and then think about your purpose, your life, and why are you here, what is the sufferings you want, and is your suffering really worth or not. You need to answer by yourself, bro. You need to ask these questions from yourself. When that's happened, yeah, and that happened, bro, because that's what life is, and you need to find your meaning a lot of times in life, because that happened. That's what life is. It's not fair sometimes. Sometimes it's really good, it's lovable, and sometimes it's not fair. That's what life is. And here's me, your host, Kalnaik is here. And yeah, I felt really good after regarding this session. And yeah, I'm done. How can I tell you I'm done? It's already 10. minutes. It's already 10 minutes. And thank you so much for listening to me. And thanks, bro. Tell like it's here, bro. And always be here, bro, and here, bro. I'm done. I'm not going to stop, man. I love you. Thank you so much. Love. Bye. See you tomorrow.